All right, everyone, please welcome to the second of two online FBS billing document entry demonstrations. Please note that today's training demonstration is being conducted from our test environment. So if you see test up there, don't get panicky. The reason for that is we had some new features and we didn't know when they would be moved to production. That actually happened last night. I just saw in my emails. So some of these new features are in production now, as well as in the test site, but I believe Lucy's still going to conduct it from the test site. During a live demonstration, please keep your microphones muted. And also, if you've called in on the phone, please do not put your phone on hold. Some phones, when you put them on hold, they play music, and then we're going to have music on our recording, and that's not going to go down very well. Keep in mind the live presentation won't take a lot of time. What we've allotted a lot of time for is a Q&A session afterwards. So if you have any questions, please hold them till after the demonstration, or you can type them in the chat window and we'll go back and try to catch up with them, but we won't be answering anything as we go. Just know that we want to continue through the demonstration and then we'll open it up for Q&A. As I just mentioned earlier, this session is being recorded, as well as last week's session was recorded, and we'll pick the better of the two to get to you guys. And we're still figuring out how to do that because we're still getting errors, getting it out to people who are not part of Google, so Google Mail and everything. So we're getting errors. Now I'm looking at trying to cut the videos into sections to minimize their size. So we will get them out to you. In the meantime, I have requested to put the PowerPoint PDF presentations, a newly started Q&A document, and a tips onto our DFFM website. Hopefully Tiffany can get those up there in the next couple days. You'll find them under the Fire Cooperators and Fire Business, and then there's an FBS or Fire Business System section there. So hopefully they'll be on there soon. Also, while we officially go live with FBS on April 3rd, you're more than welcome to use FBS to submit your billing documents at any time. Keep in mind, however, that we will return any invoices submitted via the old email method sent to financial admin starting April 3rd, at which time we'll request that they be entered and submitted through FBS. At this time, I will turn this portion over for the live demonstration to Lucy Reese. And please, again, keep your microphones muted and don't put your phones on hold if you called in. Thank you.
Okay, to begin, when you log into FBS, you may have multiple roles, but you want to make sure in the right-hand corner that you are in the data entry role, and you can do that by clicking switch role and choosing the data entry. And that's going to take you to the data entry queue. Here, you're going to select new billing document, fire, and it's going to bring you to the first page of your billing document. And here you're going to select your incident by the resource order. And you can do that one of two ways. You can type the name in and select it from the drop-down menu, or you can enter it by the incident number, but keep in mind that the incident number does not follow box 2 format of the resource order. You'd have to enter the state, the 3-letter agency identifier, then the dash, then the 6 digits following the dash. And you can select it again from the drop-down menu. Also, if you're unable to find your incident, you can select the can't find your incident button, and that's going to bring up a pop-up window. There you'd enter the year, the incident number, 2-letter state, the 3-letter agency identifier, then the dash, and then the last 6 digits. You'd select add incident, and there it'll complete the information for you. For this demonstration, I'm going to use the lava fire. I'm going to select it from the drop-down menu. Now, for the begin date, you want to review your CTRs, and you want to enter the date, the begin date, as the date they left for the fire. So you can either type that in or select it from the calendar. The end date, you also want to use your CTRs. You also want to make sure that you include R&R days if it's applicable. You want to add those in here. Keep in mind that when you're creating your billing document, the begin and end date, that selected range is the only range dates that they're going to allow you to input expenses for. So you want to try to be as accurate as possible for that. I'm going to go ahead and enter that in. The deployment area is if this assignment is a one-to-one, or maybe they've gone on to be a reassignment, so it'd be 1 of 2, or so forth. I'm going to enter 1 of 1 for this demonstration. I'm going to click Save. It's just a reminder, it's a database. You want to save often. You don't want to lose your work. Then I'm going to select Next to go to the next portion. And this is where you get to the personnel equipment setup. Now keep in mind, when you click the Add Equipment button, all this information is pre-populated by your CFRA that's already been entered into FBS. So you're going to review your documentation, select the equipment that was used at the incident. You're going to enter the request number from the resource order. Now this piece of equipment is hours. It can change based on which equipment you selected. Some are days, some are hours. I'm going to go ahead and enter 112 hours. You see here it totals that amount for the equipment. If you had an OF 304 emergency equipment fuel and oil issue ticket, or on OF 286 in box 26 a deduction, you would go ahead and enter that here. I'm going to click Save again. If you have multiple pieces of equipment, you would do the same, follow the same process. You would click Add Equipment. You'd select it from the drop-down menu, and you'd enter the information required. For personnel entry, you follow the same process. You click Add Personnel. This, again, is pre-populated by your personnel information entered into FBS. So you would select your first employee. It would have their names listed. And you'd click Add. You see here, it would have your employee's name. You're going to enter the request number from the resource order. Here you would put any notes that you think you want the auditor to be aware of, any special circumstances, anything like that. Now you see here from the dates you entered from the begin and end date on the first page of the incident, it pre-populates those dates for you. So here for the first day, we will always want to show travel. So we're going to select the travel button. We're going to click on the time entry hours. I'm going to say their travel was from 6 to 7. I'm going to close that. I'm going to put that 1 hour under their base hours. To finish the rest of the day, to show the rest of the shift, I'm going to click duplicate row. This is going to duplicate everything from the top row. So I want to remove travel, and I want to continue with their shift. Let's go to 2200. So I'm going to show that they were on shift. So I'm going to put it in the base hours. And I'm going to follow this process all the way down. Again, 16 hours, I'm going to put it in their base. The next day, so I'm going to say 6 to 12, and now I'm going to show a break. So I'm going to add another row. To 2200. I'm going to close. The 15.5 hours, I'm going to enter in their overtime. Again, I'm going to click the total entry hours. I'm going to say 6 to 12. Add another row. Oops. I'm going to click close, and I'm going to add that to their overtime. And you just continue this process until you enter all their hours. So now on the last day, I'm going to show that they started at 6. They stopped at 10. So they worked. So now I'm going to show travel by clicking duplicate row, select travel, and I'm going to say that they traveled from 10 to 11. and I'm going to save that. So if you wanted to show that they had backfill for the days that they were on shift, you would select that day by clicking the backfill button, selecting the employee that completed the backfill, and entering the number of hours in the overtime field. Again, I want to show backfill for the 28th. I'm going to click the backfill button. I'm going to select the employee, and I'm going to enter the hours in the overtime field. And I click save. Now let's say that they had rehab for the engine. In order to show that, I'm going to duplicate the row. I'm going to click rehab, uncheck travel, and I'm going to say from 11 to 12, they had rehab. And I'm going to enter that in the base hours. As you can see here, on Thursday, I forgot to enter the hours. So I'm going to put them, let's say they were on overtime, I'm going to put those hours here. You can go back and correct that after if you want to input the time and go through and add them to the appropriate base or overtime hours. Again, click save. And you would do the same thing for R&R. Now let's say that you have a second employee that was on the engine that has the exact same schedule as the first employee. You could use the copy personnel button and select that, select the employee, enter the request number, and be sure that you enter these request numbers or the copy will not work. And you see now you have the second employee. Now what you're going to have to do is go back through here and add any backfill that you might need to add. I'm going to save that. Now you can click next from this button here at the bottom, and that's going to take you over to your expenses. Now to add expenses, you would click add employee expenses. This will be populated by the employees that you just entered. So that's all you're going to see here. So select the first employee, click add. And this is for their meals. Now we have the shared expense button. So you're going to only have to enter this once if the employees shared the meal expenses. So you click that button, you choose the second employee's name, you'd enter from, and to. And then here you would enter the expenses for that day. So you can see that it gave you 120 because there's 2 people. It's normally 60 per person. So you would total the receipts for that day for the meals, and you would enter in the actual amount spent. Now, this allows you to copy that same information to the next line. We have the copy line button. Or you could enter the information individually if it's different. It'll allow you to select the date to copy to. So I'm going to copy that to the next day. And you could choose the shared expense button and select the employee. And you'd follow that the same way. We have an attachment area here. However, we prefer you to attach all your documents in one PDF at the end, and I'll show you that when we get there. We also, so this was the meals and incidental button. There is a button for POV. If that's the case, you would enter from and to and the number of miles and follow that same process if you had a POV. We have an other tab. That other tab is for everything, lodging, rentals. It's pretty well self-explanatory at the tabs. But also, again, we have the shared expense button. You could click that. You'd select the employee that shared the expenses. And let's say they shared the lodging expenses, and you would enter that information here. Again, we have another area for you to put attachments for receipts, but we ask that you save all those and scan them in one PDF. We have a miscellaneous tab, and this is for submitting a damage claim, which you'd be required to do if you would be required to submit a separate billing document for a damage claim and come to this area and put the information in. You could click next here. So once you've completed entering your billing document, this tab here, supporting docs, is where we would like you to upload your attachments. Once you upload your attachments, if you go back to the summary tab, you can download the packet, which will have the invoice and all your supporting docs, which will download onto your computer. The approval button, once you submit it, and you can put notes to your approver, it's going to go to your person in your department with the approval role. I can show you that. Let me click submit. I have to switch roles. So when your approver logs in, anything that you've submitted to them will be in their queue. And this is where they're going to have to review that document. All the supporting docs would be there. And they're going to review and check off the boxes to double check that all this information was provided in the billing document. And once they click submit, it'll be sent to the auditors at DFFM. If you need to make any changes to your invoice, your approver has to reject it with notes. And they click reject, it's going to go back to your queue so you can make the revisions necessary to submit it to DFFM. So once you make your changes, It'll come back to your queue as rejected by your approver with their notes. You'll be able to edit it, revise it, submit it again to your billing approver. Once they approve it, it'll go to DFFM. And that's basically it. Let me show you one more thing. You can go to any tab you want here just by clicking it. I neglected to show everyone. We do have the Wildland Calculator worksheet. If you click that, it's going to download it to your hard drive. And it's going to look similar, not exactly the same as what you're used to, but it's more for us for the auditing purposes, but it's something you can use as well. So I'll give this training back to Tom.
Thank you, Lucy. I want to go over a couple things and reiterate some things before I open up to the Q&A. First, those of you who aren't completely aware, there are 3 roles that are available to cooperators. The data entry role, which, as Lucy just demonstrated, is the role that creates and submits the billing document. The approver role is the role that then takes that billing document after the data entry approved it and submits it to us. The third role is the personnel equipment setup role. That role, as the name suggests, lets you enter and maintain both your personnel and your equipment AE CFRA. It's also the role necessary to sign your CFRA. Now, a couple things. The reason there are 2 roles in the billing document process, there are some departments that have contracted out their data entry or their billing document submission outside of their agency. Perfectly fine. All that we're going to suggest or mandate really is that contractors can only have the data entry role. So the approver has to be someone that actually works directly with the department. That's twofold. One, we want to make sure that someone in the department is aware of what's going on. And also, we don't want full control to a contractor. So we had issues last year on some of the pilots where a contractor had both roles and employees at the department had no clue what was going on. So we're going to scale that back and say you can only have the data entry role if you have a contractor. Other than that, employees of the department can have 1, 2, or all 3 roles. That is entirely up to you. Just remember that if you have both the data entry and approver role and you work for your department, as Lucy showed, you're going to have to log in to each role to do the function necessary. So it's not that difficult. It's just a couple clicks, but it will be necessary. Sometimes people forget. If Lucy or Christopher rejects a billing document, it will end up in the approver queue. So if you log in as a data entry, you're not going to see it until someone who has the approver role in your department rejects it back to data entry to fix whatever needs fixing. Also, any issues or problems or suggestions with FBS, please send them to fbs@dffm.az.gov. Please don't send generic questions or something directly to me or Shannon or Lucy or Christopher. Please send it to that email. We all have access to it. and whoever has time or is working or will get to it as soon as we can. So it's a little more efficient. We also want to keep all that information in one place. We're trying to develop a tips document and a Q&A document. So having all that information in one place rather than in multiple emails really helps. So again, that FBS at dffm.az.gov, many of you already know about it. If you need new users or additional access for some of your users, also send that to that same email address and let us know what access everyone needs. One thing Lucy did not mention, and it was, let's see, is there any Q&A in here? No, you guys, okay. So you may have noticed Lucy didn't go over about the admin fees. They're not going away. They're just going to be handled slightly different. And the reason for this is not one reason, but several reasons, really. The first, the feds were not happy with our previous methodology. And part of the reason they were not unhappy is it was all over the place. Some departments seem to have a minimum or standard number of hours, no matter how complicated the invoice appeared. For example, we saw some simple invoices with 3 hours of admin and much more complicated also with 3 hours. We also took some data from last year. We saw 102 departments that we paid in a certain time frame that went through, I think, mid-November. And of those 102, 25 departments, which is almost a fourth, did not even submit any admin fees. And some of those departments we asked if they were aware of it. They just gave us feedback stating that putting together an invoice is simply part of doing business. And while on the surface, I would agree, we're not going to take stuff away. It's out there, we're going to do it. We're just going to do it a little different. We also saw a range of hourly admin rates that were submitted last year, anywhere from under $1.50 to over $65 an hour. So again, all those inconsistencies, the feds looked at and said, this is not correct. This is not going to fly. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to, starting April 1st, calculating a flat rate of 0.5% of the invoice total amount. And of those 102, 90%, about 90% of those departments, the analysis we did would have received as much, if not more, than last year in admin fees. But going to a flat rate, it's fair for everyone. We will do that for you. So what will happen is you submit your invoice, goes through the process. When Yasminka goes to pay it in our financial system, she will add a second line, which is the admin fee. So basically, if you get a warrant, a check, you should see two detailed lines on that. One is your invoice amount and the other is the admin fee. So again, you won't have to do anything. We will do that for you. The only thing about that is you will not get an admin fee for a damage claim billing document. That's just send in a damage claim, you get that, no admin fee for that. Also, a couple of things, and this is going to be in the AOP. If your billing document is rejected by DFFM auditors 3 times or more, for whatever reason, your admin fee will not be paid. And the reason for this is billing documents are supposed to be submitted as clean and accurate. So 3 rejections is just too much. Now, we understand this is a new system, so taking that into account, that particular policy of 3 rejections will not take effect until August 1st of this year. So it does give you basically 4 months to get familiar with the system and learn it. So we're not going to put that in effect right away, but starting August 1st, that will be part of the policies. last thing I want to mention is that please remember that your billing documents per the AOP must be received no later than 60 days from the time of return to unit. If you have crew swaps on assignment, please submit a billing document as each crew returns home. And that, because sometimes you may have assignments that, because of multiple crew swaps, are out there for a couple months. And we had a problem with some people waiting 2, 3, 4 months before they close it out. Well, that became a problem. They were outside that 60 days technically because first cruise, second cruise came back and they're outside of that. So if you have crew swaps, please submit for that first crew. Also, it gets you paid quicker and is less confusion. The other thing, we are required to close out fires timely, and that's per agreement with the Fed. So that's another reason we put the 60-day. So we need to allow ourselves time on our end to do what we need to do to get that incident closed out and billed to the Feds. Okay, unless I missed anything, let's move. Now we do have quite a few things in the chat. Okay. How do you want me? Go ahead, Lucy.
Do you want me to bring up the screen to answer some of these questions?
Please, please. So are you starting with the first one from Surprise?
Yeah.
Cool. We'll just go down the line there. So everyone be patient. We'll get to your questions. That's why we allowed the 2 hours. Most of it is for Q&A. So
one person starts. Let's see. Backfill more than one person. That's the first. Okay. Let me go here. This one is a little tricky. Let me show you on this one. So when you click backfill and you select the first employee, enter the hours for that employee, then you're going to want to duplicate that same day. You're going to click the backfill button again, select the second employee, but this time you're going to have to delete the hours because it duplicated the hours for the person on assignment, and enter the hours for backfill here and save it.
Can I say something, Lucy?
Sure, Christopher.
So on the first row of the first person with the backbone, you also want to change the timeline in order to show the same work hours. It's, for example, on the first Saturday on the 25th, you have the 16 hours. So when you go into the edit button, you want to change the work time.
Okay, we'll have to get back to you on that because that's a little bit of a glitch in the system. So we'll have to put that out there later.
Okay.
Okay. Under the shared expenses, now if we had 4 people listed, because it's going to go by all the personnel you entered their time for, when you go to your expenses tab and you want to show shared expenses, you would be able to select all 4. It'll have places for you to select here. So you could select the 4 people to show that expenses and only have to enter it one time. Tom, I'm not sure about this question about one data entry person starts it and can another one finish it?
Yes, they can. Just be aware that make sure you're not working on it at the same time. I don't know how that will work in the system, but I know that there is a check and balance in a lot of systems. This one, it's just the role. So anyone with that data entry role can pick up and see anything in the data entry queue. So if 2 or more people have that, yes, anyone can work on it. But once they submit it, it goes to the approver role. And again, if you have 1 or more in the approver role, any one of them can also approve it. So it's a good way to also have the ability, if someone goes on leave, that you can continue to submit and approve in a timely fashion by having multiple people, if you have that ability at your department. Okay. See, will there be a location on FBS to find the complete financial P code?
It's found under incident information. So when you select the incident, down below, it's going to have the incident name, the incident number, what county, the incident start date, and the financial code below.
Okay. Do CTRs have to be scanned as one PDF as well?
Yes.
I knew one of you would chime in with that.
Yeah, we prefer all PDF, all documents to be in one PDF because we have to combine them and put in our files as we audit the invoice. It's easier for us to quickly audit the invoices in order to get to the next invoice. I hope that makes sense.
Our finance department requests the invoice as backup for the monies received. Will there be a final invoice to download with the admin fee noted?
We have the packet button, which it will download the complete packet to your hard drive.
No, I get the question, Lucy. The current answer is no. There is a financial or an admin fee percentage ability in the system. Unfortunately, it puts it as part of the document total. We need it outside, so there's going to be a little bit of weight gain waiting gain that we have to get with the developer. You will see it again when you get your payment side. You will see that separate line, and hopefully that will be enough at this point. But the short answer for now, no. It'll only have your amount, and then the admin fee will be a second line on your payment, the deposit that you receive. So I apologize for that inconvenience, but for right now, no, it won't be in this system. Will contractors submit an invoice with invoice packaged, or should the contractor invoice fire department? Okay. I'm guessing what you're talking about are personnel contractors, not the data entry for putting it together. Mr. Maxwell, K. Paul, can you reiterate if you're still with us?
Yes, sir. Hello, Paul Maxwell from Tucson Fire Department. So we use a contractor separate of us to do the data entry. And once the approver approves it, how is that contractor supposed to get paid, right? They're getting 1/2 of 1%. How do they receive their payment?
Well, the one half of what isn't necessarily what you contract to them. You can contract any amount with them. That's outside. We're just going to give you that, and you can funnel it to them. You can keep it, whatever you want. That's going to go to you. So however you pay a contractor is all on you. Yes.
Okay, so that'll be automatic payment back to the city, and then everything else is between the city and that contractor is they're paid.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa, how do you want us to submit our R&R policy?
We no longer require that. So it's no longer in the AOP. So no worries on the R&R policy.
Do you still need the old Excel spreadsheet for the employee hours? And that is what was the old Wildland calculator worksheet. And no, the only spreadsheet from years past that you will still need to utilize is the Appendix D. And that's the one that you will download from our DFFM website. And please download it because we updated it earlier this year. We found a glitch. So please download that one and use that. You will need that to determine the base and overtime rates of your employees that you will then enter into this system. You do not have to submit it to us, but you will still need to use that to help you guide you to those two rates for each of your personnel. Keep in mind that you can update your personnel rates whenever necessary. We're allowing that. Since you don't have to submit the spreadsheet, you just go online, you update them with the new rates, you end date the old rate, you create a new one. The only thing to keep in mind is that given this new power at the end of this year, we're going to gather up 8, 10, 12 random departments and do some audits. Now, those audits are going to be entirely around personnel. What it's going to entail is we're going to pick some timeframes on some incidents, ask you for your payroll, your actual payroll, compare rates, and just make sure that what's entered in the FBS at least makes sense, closely matches what is in your. So keep in mind that those are coming. They're going to be random. We'll pick different ones each year. Unless someone has a problem, then we might have to do that one 2 years in a row. But those are coming. But again, you can change your rates with this system yourselves at any time. If you have a crew swap, do you want the equipment invoiced with the original crew and then again with the replacement, or can I just invoice the equipment? So the equipment that's used for that first crew, submit it with that first crew personnel time as well. So first 2 week period, submit whatever the equipment was for that 2 week period and the personnel for that 2 week, and then for the next swap, continue on. That way it keeps it, we don't have to go back and remember what was or wasn't invoiced. Is that true, Christopher, Lucy?
Right. Yeah, it makes
Yes.
it less confusing for us.
Yeah. Let's see. I saw a tab for non-employee expenses. What would an example of non-employee expense?
That would have been when, like we had that fuel reimbursement. There wasn't an area for us to designate it, so we used that area to show that. So that's kind of the example I would give you for that. That doesn't fall within any of those categories.
And I believe, and check me if I'm mistaken, because Lucy and Christopher do this all the time. I'm not in there as much as they are, but I believe that's also where you would enter the damage claim information, correct?
Yeah, and that's where if you're not claiming any personnel costs, so it's strictly resources outside of personnel.
Yeah. Do we need CTRs and a 288?
If you have them, submit them both.
Is there an order for how you would like PDF documents? A first CTR, second hotel receipts, and so forth? I'll let Lucy Christopher answer that one.
Yes, yeah, start with the crew time reports and the shift tickets, then the expenses at the bottom. Try to follow in order of what you see in the tabs.
Do you know the record retention period for all invoices and backup? So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we asked that you hang on to, so you don't have to submit meal receipts to us, but you have to keep them in case we request an audit. And I
Yeah,
believe that is 5 years, if memory serves.
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yes.
mentioned. Yeah, it's mentioned in the ALP.
Oh my.
Now, as far as the invoices and backup, as long as you've uploaded it, it's on the system. And I have to get back to you if you're asking how long it's going to be on the FBS system. I'll have to check with the developers on that. But once everything's uploaded to the system, it's there. They're on Amazon web servers. That's where their access and everything's being stored for this. So unless Amazon goes out of business, which I very much doubt anytime in the near future, it's going to be there for a while, but we could develop a retention period, but that will be on us. The only thing you should have to keep really is your meal receipts that aren't uploaded or required. Just to clarify, no parts of the FM 122 document need to be attached to the FBS system.
True. They do not.
That's FBS is kind of replacing that document. Is really what happened. Yes, Yasminka.
I want to go back on the one when they're asking about the admin and invoice. Tom, I think when they're getting checks, I'm not sure for ACH, if we pay them multiply invoices in one day and they receive the check, it will not break the total. But they can, and I'm willing and I'm offering help. If they're confused, they can always send on FBS request. We can give them information what we have on our Excel log.
But I believe if they utilize that VenPay site, that will give them
Yeah.
line by line, all the information, invoice by invoice, accounting line.
That
true?
I think Barbara should know better. I never go there, but most of our fire department, I don't know if they're going there or not, but in the past I will receive, requests from them and give them the Excel spreadsheet. But until we update that on FBS, if they need it, that's just, I'm offering my help.
All of the information can be found on VenPay. So if they're not using it now, they should get used to using it. This way they can utilize and find out the payment information, especially when more than one invoice is paid in a day.
And I just entered that link in the chat. So if you go there, all you need is your taxpayer ID for your organization. The agency would be us, the Forestry and Fire Management, and the payment date or the warrant amount or something. And it will should give you all the detailed information for that payment. Thank you, Barb. Let's see. Do we have some department report for the incident? And do you want pictures if we have them? Okay, Patty, I'm confused. What?
Christopher's muted.
Hold on, sorry. If it's if it's a department information for your own records, we don't need that. We just need what's related to the invoice. But if you do have a fire incident report and you're the first department that has been arrived at the scene, that report we do need.
How do we access this in the personnel data entry? Yeah, sorry. I mentioned this at the beginning. I'm still working on that. We're having issues because I tried to open it up to the 400 plus people and I keep getting system errors. So my next course of action is try to break up the size into sections, each of the meetings, so they're smaller, at which time we could get them on the public website. So just stick with us, Denise. I apologize. The size of these training videos is pretty massive, and sorry, I'm not a multimedia expert, so I'm having a little bit technical issue. And every time I try to share a Google Drive, I get errors because not everyone has Google. So please bear with us a little bit, and I do apologize for that. Keep in mind that if you have questions, please address them to that FBS website. Christopher, Lucy, myself, Shannon, a couple others, Yasminka, everyone are monitoring that. So as soon as we see that, one of us should jump on that as soon as we can. Also, we're not hot and heavy in fire season, so I think Christopher and Lucy will be able to help what they can. What I've told them though, once they start getting massive amounts of invoices, they really can't spend a lot of time training you guys from the ground up. So we will, I have requested to put the PowerPoint presentation of those personnel entry and this one on our public website. As far as these videos, we'll get them there somehow, whether in chunks or something, but please bear with us. Was there anything, Christopher, Lucy, Yasminka, that I missed? Shannon, if you're on, I don't know if you're on. I'll go ahead and mention it about what we just discussed the other day. So there is a change coming in the AOP that has to do with travel. And so we have to go by with what the feds say. And so the feds state that any travel is considered a travel day, not a work day. So even if you worked part of the morning and then traveled back, it's a travel day. So it's not counted as a work day, it's a travel day. And that's per the feds. So sorry, it is what it is, but I know we had some other language and they weren't happy with that. We got to go with what the feds are telling us.
Yeah.
So if there's any travel, the start and end day travel, that's a travel day, not a work day. Even if you did work even more time than you traveled, it's still a travel day per the feds. All right. Again, I want to thank you all. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, keep in mind that, you know, we can morph this site the best we can, but all changes cost money and time. So we will take all suggestions and we'll weigh them and we'll see what is the best. One thing I did want to go over that I didn't the last time, for those of you that are still here, is the communication. So hang on.
Oh, shoot. Oh, it's gone. What the heck?
So I'm going to share my. Okay. So right now I'm sharing my screen, and I keep in mind that most of you aren't going to see these. I'm signed in as the site administrator, so I have a lot more access with this role. But right here, this little envelope in the upper right, if you click on that, it's going to show any alerts for the last 7 days. But if you click in this settings, you can click on text message alerts or email or both. And as long as you enter the phone number, the correct email, and then it's the types of notices you're going to get. So billing document rejected, back to data entry, approved bill, paid bill, and those are only going to go to the data entry role. Some of these you won't even see. Rejected to approver. So if Christopher Lucy rejects it back to approver, if you check this and put these on, you should get notified. And then approved by data entry to approver. So if you have the approver role, these two are for you. So you'll get notified either when it gets rejected back from the auditor to the approver role, or if your data entry person approves it here. If you want to get notified, this is where you do it. And then you just save, and you should start getting notified. If you have them checked and you're not getting notified, before you send in an email, first check your spam folder. We're finding some people, these emails, especially if you ask for password reset, there's a password reset button. So right here, I forgot my password in the login screen. If you go there, you type in your username, and it emails you a password. If you don't get it, it could be one of three things. It went to your spam, your server is blocking it, your email provider or your organization's blocking it altogether, or the email that we have for you is not the correct email. So if you check the first two and you still don't get it, after you click this, then send an email to FBS and let's make sure we have the correct email for you in the system. I think that should just about do it, everyone. The last thing I want to mention before thanking you again and bearing with us on the recordings, getting them to you. If you send an email to FBS next week and it sits, we're not ignoring you. Some of the questions or responses are a little more technical, and some people leave them for me. I will be on leave next week. Trust me, I need it, and I'm getting ready for the march forward this fire season. So I'm going to be on leave next week. So you're not being ignored, but I will get to them as soon as I can when I get back on the 3rd. So just be aware of that. And I do apologize for any inconvenience. Everyone else will answer what they can to help you as best they can. But if it's a little more technical, they usually leave those to me. So again, unless anyone else has anything else, and I don't think so, I think we've answered everything. I want to thank you, and I think we'll end this session, and I'll stop recording. As soon as I figure out how. There it is. Okay.